have a special episode today. I am joined by Olivia Waite to talk about book bans and why romance readers should care. Olivia writes queer historical romance, fantasy, science fiction, and essays, and she's also the romance fiction columnist for the New York Times Book Review. Since she and I are both members of the Authors Against Book Bans organization, she graciously agreed to join me today to talk about what book bans are, how they're happening in the United States, and why romance readers should care. So, Olivia, thank you so much for coming on.
Oh no, it's exciting. I'm always happy to talk about book banning and the right to read.
Yes. And I just want to preface that we are going to be talking in the context of the United States because we're both in the US. Authors Against Book Bans is focusing on the US. And I don't know much about the international sphere, but I think international listeners, you might learn something about how what's happening in the US and so that you know what to look for in your community. And so I invite you into the conversation as well.
And a lot of this is going to go into I have some snippets of like historical perspective, because one of the things that I've been writing about and other historical romance authors have been writing about is historically limitations on reading and printing in Britain. So,
Mm, I love that. Okay,
yeah.
now my nerd is excited too. So let's start by defining book bans. In terms of our conversation and generally in terms of authors against book bans, how do you think about the definition of book bans?
Well, more specifically, like right now in America, when we say book bans, we mean removing books from public and school libraries, and it's mostly the line is that it's protecting children. And of course, that's just, a good sales pitch. It's not what they're actually doing. Let me go briefly through the general process of getting a book into a public or school library. You
Love
have a
it.
librarian. They're not just sending a box or a cart down to the local bookstore, filling it up and bringing it in. It's a very involved process with several stages of vetting. They usually look up the title online. They check the Library of Congress categories. They check trade reviews from paid professionals, like not me personally, but people very much like me, who publish reviews in places like Library Journal and Booklist and Kirkus, specifically for librarians and school librarians to use in evaluating books that are coming out. So those will get either starred reviews or very specific descriptions. A lot of times librarians will get advance copies, so they've read these books themselves. They will check patron requests from the community. So usually if they're buying a book, there's at least one person in the community who's asking for it. So by the time a book is on the shelf at a school or public library, it's been evaluated several times over for its quality, its value, and its use to the community. So when you pull that book as somebody from outside that system, you are claiming that your fear of whatever identity is in that, because as we see, these book bans overwhelmingly target queer and BIPOC authors and writers and characters. So you are asserting an authority and an expertise that you do not have. You are saying your fear of other kinds of people is greater than these many layers of expertise that a librarian has been trained to use.
Right, because most librarians have master's degrees, so they are highly
Yeah.
educated to begin with before starting that whole system.